bacon of all things, should come with a cigarette-style health warning because of its cancer risk, according to Dale Vince. He's backing a campaign to make NHS hospitals serve plant-based food to patients. He says meat and dairy should come with health warnings, citing bacon in particular because it's carcinogenic. Let's speak to Dale Vince, founder of Ecotricity, joining us now. Afternoon to you, Dale.
Good evening, how you doing?
All good. Just before we get into bacon and stuff, Kev the Red says you're making him put jumpers on.
Well, we're doing him a favour then, I reckon. But look, 80 quid a month is not a huge energy bill. Nationally today, that's about normal. That's where we are. But it's because we're still dependent on fossil fuels to a large degree. And to a complete degree, they set the price of energy on the system. Even though 50% of our energy is green, fossil fuels set the price of it. And it's something the government could change, just reform the market, and then we can all get lower bills straight away.
Am I right in saying suppliers like yourself are not, you don't set these prices, and you're not the, when we hear about these big profits, the gas companies have made loads of profits, they're not talking about Ecotricity or Octopus, they're talking about the people that are actually producing the stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the important distinction. It's not about energy retailers. It's about the producers, the people dragging it out of the ground. They've been making a killing in the energy crisis, and they still are. And that's the thing we need to fix.
What's going to happen with my solar panels, Dale? It's snowing hard, it's freezing, there ain't no sunshine out there, the windmills are not turning, there's not enough wind. I mean, back to coal, surely. Get down the mine, dig some stuff up.
Well, look, we've had brilliant sunshine today, and if you've got snow on your panels, just go sweep them off. Although on top of your roof, that's probably a tricky thing to do. But I hear you. Right, what happens when the wind don't blow and the sun don't shine? I just want to say this. I mean, this has been an issue for 30 years that I've been in renewable energy. And the fact is, we rarely have a completely wind-free day in Britain, and it's always windy somewhere in Britain. So as long as we spread our windmills around the country and our solar projects, we can largely balance the system with just renewable energy. The National Grid thinks we can be 100% powered that way. I think they might include a bit of nuclear in their mix. I'm not really sure. But grid-scale storage is the thing. These are gigantic batteries that give and take to the grid. We can absolutely do this thing. And it's being done in 6 other countries of the world at the moment who are at virtually 100% green on the grid.
Wow. Anyway, we didn't get you on to talk about that. We want to talk about bacon. Now, you're a lifelong vegan, OK? You haven't touched a bacon sandwich since you were about 3, so if at all. But it's the one thing that can certainly turn a vegetarian back to the old meat diet is your standard bacon doorstep. A bit of ketchup, bit of brown sauce. Now we're hearing that bacon in particular should carry health warnings, the kind of things you get on a packet of cigarettes.
Yeah, absolutely. And this it's been around for a long time. The World Health Organization has bacon listed as a carcinogen, a known carcinogen, grade 1. And on the very same list, we have tobacco. And what I've been saying lately is, look at how we treat tobacco. We stick it behind a roller shuttered door, unbranded packaging with pictures of diseased organs on it. We couldn't be any more clear that it's bad for your health, tragically bad for your health. Bacon sits in a supermarket fridge, probably got a picture of a happy pig on it, and all of the indications are it's okay to eat it, when the science says it is not okay to eat it. And what I'm saying additionally is government should step in. Government have an obligation, a responsibility to us actually to give us some advice about this kind of stuff, and actually to regulate the industry and make the industry behave in our best interest. So in one case, there's warnings on packets of bacon and other products that are harmful for us. And otherwise, salt, fat, and sugar are the 3 big ingredients of the fast food and processed food industry. They are literally poisoning us, and the government should step in and regulate those as well.
Is it not just an overindulgence in those things, though? Because, I mean, look, there's a lot of things in supermarkets, as we know, that are not good for you. There's a lot of vegan food that gets off by just saying, we're not meat, so therefore we're okay, but not always healthy. Health issues come in many forms, both meat-based and non-meat-based, but often the issue is an overindulgence on those things as to where, if you had a bacon sandwich 8 times a day, then you might die. But what, once a week? That's all right, isn't it?
Apparently not. And actually, with cigarettes, we didn't take that view, did we? We didn't say, oh, it's okay just to smoke a little, right? Smoking is terribly bad for you. And we often hear, though, you just need a balanced approach, do a little bit this, that, and the other. But processed food today is so chock full of salt, sugar, and fat. We can't avoid it. It's very hard to avoid these three ingredients. Yes, we absolutely have an element of choice, but when we walk into a shop and we see things on the shelves, we think it must be okay. I mean, that's how it works, isn't it? You think, well, the government wouldn't allow it if it was bad for me, if it was poisoning me, if it was causing diabetes, for example, the amount of sugar in fizzy drinks. But it is, and they do allow it.
This might sound like a daft question, Dale, but I'm going to throw it in there anyway. You like the countryside. You are a man that is at home in the fields and the valleys. You know, that's a natural sort of spiritual place that you'd rather be than a big old smoggy town. So I'm wondering whether you were out there with the farmers yesterday in Westminster protesting against this, what has to be a kind of Cruella de Vil type tax that the government want to impose on hard-working farmers?
Well, actually, I think it's the closing of a tax loophole. That's the way I look at it, right? Because there's been no inheritance tax on land. I don't know how long for, but there's been none. And people like Dyson and Clarkson have piled in and bought loads of land as a kind of way to avoid paying tax. And that's one issue. But the government are closing this loophole. But still, farmers will only pay half as much inheritance tax as you or I will on a property, for example, like a house. Half as much. And it will affect very few farms. But the way I look at it, it's closing of a loophole.
But it is the whole point of that. I mean, of course, there's some rich old duffers, the old landed gentry characters that owned, pretty much all of Scotland, and, peasants would live there for a daft rent, and they've made millions out of doing that. But the average farmer the reason that loophole was there is because it's a legacy industry. It gets passed down. They're not selling it. They're not moving on. They're not trying to go, right, if I keep hold of this farm in 20 years' time, it'll be worth a load of money, and then we can all disappear to Saint-Tropez. That isn't the deal with small holdings and the like. The deal is you keep it in the family. You might make 30, 40,000 quid a year. Your overheads are covered because you live on the farm. You've got no desire for it to be something that's going to give you some big fat pension. You just pass it on to your next of kin. So it's quite a wicked way to deal with that, isn't it?
I think the kind of farm you're describing there is the kind of farm that isn't captured by this partial closing of the loophole. They're too small. It's not going to be a problem. I don't know why the exemption from inheritance tax was there in the first place, but I would argue that every family in the country probably has a similar aspirations about the family home, right? They're not planning to flog it and make loads of money and run off to the sun. They want to leave it to their descendants, but they pay inheritance tax.
This is British farmers, Dal. These are the people that make the good bacon, remember? Not the bad stuff you were talking about, the good stuff.
Absolutely. And it's worth throwing in, 85% of our food comes from abroad. So when people talk about food security and that this is a big risk to food security, I say it's not as big as you might think.
There it is. Dale, thank you.